All right, so before we start the show, I want to talk about one of the things that After Action Review podcast is trying to do, and that's trying to raise 500 YouTube subscribers. Now, this isn't just some arbitrary number. I need these numbers so that way I can secure the YouTube/the AAR podcast URL. Right now, it's the youtube.com/ a bunch of garbage, and it's really hard to direct people there. So, as much as I like you liking the comments and sharing, I need you to actually click on the link and subscribe. Go to YouTube. You can search the AARpodcast.com or the AAR podcast and subscribe. That's what you can do. And like I've talked to you guys before, when you support the After Action Review podcast, you're also supporting every single veteran-owned business that is on this show. So if you really care, if you really want to show your support, that's how you can do it. So the other thing I want to talk to you about before we start the show is this is episode 18, and we're talking to Regroup for Vets and their nonprofit. And if you're thinking about a nonprofit, I'm almost sure you have. Almost everybody has thought at least at some point about starting a nonprofit. You have an idea, you have a cause, something close to you, but you're just not sure where to start. I got a book for you. It's called The Nonprofit Narrative by Dan Portnoy. Now, this book really helped me when I was working with a company that had a nonprofit and they were trying to start up. And it's all about the nonprofit narrative. It's about how telling stories can change the world, how telling your story can change the world. So as you watch this episode, kind of keep that in mind about what story do you want to tell? If you really have a nonprofit cause, what's the story you want to tell the world? And this is the book that's going to help you do that. So if you're interested, you can click the link below and you can order it directly from Amazon.com, or you can go to the After Action Review podcast, the AAR podcast /reading list page, which is also the link below. And you can purchase it through the After Action Review podcast. When you do, they're going to kick me a couple of cents. All right. So when you purchase anything in the reading list, you're not getting charged any extra. Amazon is going to kick me a couple of dollars from here and there to support the podcast. So again, if you really care about supporting veteran-owned businesses, this is another way you can do it. You can like us all on our social media outlets, and you can purchase whatever stuff that we've got going on, especially for Amazon affiliates like me. Every little bit helps. And the whole point is just to keep the podcast going. So thanks for listening, and let's start the show.
And now, the After Action Review with Rod Rodriguez.
Welcome to the After Action Review. I'm your host, Rod Rodriguez. This is episode 18, and today I'm talking to Antonio Ruiz and Stephanie Sultan of Regroup for Vets, a great organization, a nonprofit right there in Central Texas. And what they're trying to do is some amazing stuff for veterans to have a place to get themselves back together, back up on their feet. It is not just about homelessness. It's about taking care of our veterans. So I recorded, they were actually one of the first people I talked to when I started the After Action Review. And the first recording we did was outside. It was all audio. And it was a good recording, but I was just really inexperienced. I don't feel like I accurately conveyed what they were trying to put out there. So this is kind of our take two. You can see them here on video. They have a great cause. Highly encourage you to go support them. Visit their social media and do what you can do to help support Regroup for Vets. So without any further ado, Antonio Ruiz and Stephanie Sultan of Regroup for Vets. I'm here with Stephanie and Antonio. Tell me a little bit about, I would hope so.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what Regroup for Vets is doing and a little bit about who you both are.
I get to sit back now because she has got it down packed from a year ago. So I get to just sit back and watch. And it's really great because my other regroupies are starting to get the mission. And I just sit back and watch the story be told. So hit it.
So Regroup Foundation, we are a nonprofit. We are national, so we're based out of Colorado. We are currently under construction for our first project in New Braunfels, Texas. And our mission is to provide the place and the time and the services for our service members to transition out of service successfully. We give them completely free of charge to live on our ranch. And these are like resort ranches. It's not a homeless shelter. That is not what we're about. We're about prevention. And so we take them in months, put them through 3 phases. So phase 1 is decompression. So during phase 1, we are partnering with the equine therapy, the whitewater rafting, the hunting trips, giving them the time to really decompress and enjoy those activities fully, and not like Saturday night start going, yeah, tomorrow's going to be fun too, but Monday I've still got nowhere to live and no job. So really give them that safety net to enjoy those experiences fully. And then just start working on their plan. What do they want to do now that they've gotten out? Spend some time mentoring, doing research, benefits lined up. That's all kind of part of that first phase, decompression. Second phase is development. So they start developing their plan, actually go on mentoring with various careers that they think they want to do. Really get to see firsthand what that job looks like before they start school or they start looking for jobs in that field. And during that phase, we also work on getting them registered for school if that's what they're doing. We tutor them up. So we really work on learning how to write an essay again, learning how to do a research project, remember how to do algebra, all those skills that, 4, 6, 8, 10 years in the military, they may be a little rusty. We also address any counseling that they may need to deal with any PTS that they're dealing with, any addiction issues or counseling they may have individually, as a couple, as a family, as they're trying to transition. And what does that look like for their entire family unit, whatever that unit looks like. Then get them registered in school. If they're if they want to go get a job, also during that time, we work on their resume, we work on their interview skills, really being able to translate all of their military experience into selling themselves for a job, because there's amazing skills they develop just learning the right lingo to make it civilian friendly.
As Lita said, branding. They learn to brand themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all part of phase 2. Then phase 3 is deployment. So once again, that time, that luxury of time to interview and start school and interview for jobs, knowing that you've got the security of a place to live. You don't have to worry about where your next meal or your roof over your head is coming from. So the luxury to really make a good choice.
Or if they're, they may have to go to another city, town to locate. So one of the things that we're building is other nonprofit relationships that handle this whole process of being in the civilian sector and now transitioning into the job, doing this kind of thing, Team Red, White, and Blue, Team Rubicon, to have them have that balance of they still have that relationship with a nonprofit once they leave. And that gives us the follow-up outcomes of how they're doing as well. So if I see them and I check on Facebook and I can see that they're still being involved in Team Rubicon or Team Red, White, and Blue or whatever nonprofit they're involved with, in phase 3, we try and really nurture that whole event of community. So while they're here, they have the best time in another nonprofit in our surrounding city area and give some give back time to get into that idea that it isn't just about you, your job, your money. It's about community. So,
and then my other favorite part about what we do, and I think people are so receptive and excited about it, is that even though we are a nonprofit, and right now we are dependent on fundraising and applying for grants and everything, the ultimate goal is to become self-sustaining. So this property in New Braunfels that's under construction will have a 9,000 square foot aquaponics building. So you'll have fish and prawns on the lower level, and then we're doing vertical growing And so we'll have all sorts of fresh greens and herbs.
Whatever you eat in a salad, we're going to supply it. So.
And so then we're going to be selling these through restaurants and farmers markets, and should be able to generate about $2 million in gross sales a year from that to support the programs and services, so that we're not constantly fundraising and we can really focus on our mission. And
wow.
And
there's more.
And there's more.
And there's more. And the veterans are not required to work in the farming ranching. Of course, we're going to encourage them for the agrotherapy, just getting your hands involved and the therapy of feeding the fish and everything. So we'll encourage them to explore it, but they are not required to work it. So
it's
I know
about transition.
Yeah,
it's all about their transition.
They're working on their transition. We're just doing that as a side business on the backside to provide the funds.
And you're right. That is an interesting point with the agrotherapy. Being able to get your hands dirty, get back into doing something, producing something, and really getting back into the swing of things, the normality. So it sounds like you have yourselves quite a project, quite a huge endeavor in front of you. What brought this on? Why did you even get involved in a project like this?
Well, I know you started this. We talked about it a year ago, and I'll bring you up to. I think Stephanie's intro about what we do, and you understand the mission. And I think each of us have our own point of it. Mine is the fact that I went through the bad transition. I was a candidate for a Regroup mission. And after being my second divorce, being homeless again at that point at the age of almost 50, I was like, there's got to be something better for us. So I was after the whole homeless event and how do we cure it? How do we help our brothers and sisters that need help at that one time and moment? And it goes all the way across the spectrum. It can be from the initial time you're out of service to, I've been out and I go through a divorce or I go through bankruptcy. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of us come from family units where we don't have family to fall back on. So at that point, it's either fall off the cliff or live on the streets. And what's really interesting is, my idea of what I wanted to do with this has really grown into a really great idea thanks to having Stephanie on board as my partner, because she brings the civilian side to it, the mom side to it. So there's a lot of different aspects of the idea. When I said, hey, I've got this really crazy idea that I want to work on while I'm working in Iraq. Are you willing to help me do this? And she was like, yeah, sounds like a great idea. But then she has her story.
It just took me looking at the problem a little bit and then just putting a business mind and a mom mind to it. And so I have no experience with the military. My son went into the Air Force in 2012. And his whole goal was, I'm going to get some hands-on training because I hate school. I am not going to college. There's no way you're dragging me onto the campus. And so he wanted the hands-on experience. And then he thought, I'll do my 4 years, get out, get a job, all good to go. And he likes mechanics. So he thought, I'll go into the Air Force and learn how to work on planes. Well, as he started to look at exiting and started looking at jobs, he realized all the jobs he wanted, he still had to go through 2 18-month programs to get the certifications to be qualified to even touch a commercial aircraft. So he was still going to have to go to school. So all that experience just did not translate. And so, at that point, he was married, 2 dogs, and he was going to have to go to school. He was like, how am I going to afford this? So he just re-enlisted. So I'd already been aware of the struggle that my own son was going to go through transitioning. And then once I met Antonio and heard his story, and then him being a medic, he gets calls all the time. I mean, we've got, calls saying, hey, doc, we got this guy that is trying to get off medications, and he's microdosing with something, and trying to self-medicate, and he's spinning out of control. We need your help. Or I've got a guy who's been, he's struggling with alcoholism, and he's locked up in a hotel for a month at a time, and just seeing all these missions that these military people were dealing with, and I just went, wow, you know, there's got to be a better way. And so that's when I really got involved.
You bring up a great point. And I know medics, they have this issue where all the stuff that you did in the Army, all your certifications, when you leave, they don't count in the civilian world. You can't even drive an ambulance for some guys, like combat medics and whatnot. So a lot of that skill transition, I know the Army's been talking about improving on it, but I don't know how far that's gone.
We're trying to fill that gap. We are trying to be that organization that is appealing to the politicians to push it. We're appealing to the schools and the colleges to let these veterans test out. You know, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to go take the test. And if they've already got all that training and years of experience and they can pass the test, they should get the same certifications. Yep. And so we're really pushing, as an organization, we're pushing those. And then we've also formed a partnership with Southern Careers Institute to do a lot of the hard trades, the
vocational skills. The
vocational skills, and working on some accreditation programs that our members living here on the property can get while they're living here.
See, I used to be the one talking, and then she was doing all the nodding, so I get to do this now. It's great role reversal that she's got this down packed. But yeah, the hard trades, you know, having air conditioning, welding, and heating. I mean, we're getting ready to hit a industrial revolution here pretty soon. And if you guys want to get out, and our men and women want to get out and make entrance money right at 18, 20, 25 bucks an hour, it's going to be very possible for them to be able to do that. So they'll be able to work on the site here on their skills. We'll have a kind of a production building / learning center with the hard trades, since we do a lot of interesting things. So you know that we grow food, but we also are big about new energy concepts. So we have 140 kilowatts of solar donated already by Mission Solar out here. We're going to try and incorporate technician programs that will get them a certification with this institute that's involved with us to help develop accredited programs for them to allow them to go ahead, step on here, get accredited, work in that career field, wind, solar, and now with the we're trying to develop more of the cool thermal type of cooling systems for Texas. So you know, where you dig big deep wells and you run water through it, bring it up, and do an evaporator system with it, and you can cool your house for minimal. Is some of the ideas that we're trying to develop out here. So to keep that building and those fish at a particular temperature, the reason why most aquacultures don't do well is because of the energy needs, and the technology wasn't there before. I mean, during wintertime your fish would die, or summertime your fish would die. You couldn't keep them that maintained temperature. The greenhouses get too hot. So the energy use was very expensive. And so with solar now and wind technology and things that America's been on, the cost of these events is a little cheaper. So one of the cool things that we're involved with is Texas A&M's got a program called Texas Agribility, and they're trying to create veteran farmers. The average farmer in Texas is about 53 to 54, and pretty soon they're not going to have enough farmers to farm food here in Texas. So we're bridging with that program to help them get an idea of doing the type of technology we're doing here on site. Because these micro farms that we do, you can bust them out all around the outskirts of subdivisions. And with the technology that's on board, it isn't that you're tied to a tractor all day type of farming. It's monitoring what's happening on your phone, having somebody on site that's there that day that can run the systems for you. You can program it between two individuals where one is working one day, one is not working one day. So it's a really great lifestyle that you could develop with a team of individuals that you're coming out of service with to create a nice 1,000-acre farm or smaller, like micro farm like we're doing. So those are kind of things we're excited about.
One of our big things too, like you said, we're losing farmers. So one of our business missions is to provide that fresh local food, so that we're not dependent on so many other countries for our food.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much it comes from other countries till we started doing this.
Yeah. So any good after-action review, we always talk about challenges. So take me through some of the challenges that Regroup for Vets has faced up to this point?
This isn't a new idea. I think we've walked into rooms, since the last time we spoke with you. I mean, we've been into the Daniels Fund in Colorado State. They manage like almost, I think, $2 billion worth of foundation money. In the Ross Perot, we walked in, we've been to that foundation and some of the other bigger foundations. And the first thing is like, we've heard your story before, and they never get past the planning phase of it. So it's so big. The difference, I think, is the individual that we're bringing onto site here. I think most of these ideas have been used for homelessness to a stage of individual that went from having nothing to trying to get them into understanding being a right into civilian sector again right well. For us, we understand mission. We understand work. We have a great work ethic. So when I put people onto a place like this, when things could go awry, there's no problem with me getting hands on deck to make sure this mission will continue. Once we start building alumni with this program, I mean, I'm hoping that we're going to get tied in with a lot of on-site hires with corporate America. So we will be building relationships with people that are doing things in areas where the give back will be a very sufficient amount of time and money to ensure this program continues, is the idea. So that's some of the sale that works differently that we go into the room with that wasn't there before. And that, I think the biggest problem is it's just so big of an idea that when we walk in there and go, hey, we're Regroup, and this is what we got. And it's like, whoa, calm down, Antonio and Stephanie.
I was going to say, I definitely think one of our biggest challenges has been that we are such a big idea. We encompass so many. I mean, we've got 7 program services, and we've got the business arm, generating funds, that people get a little overwhelmed by the mission.
Right.
And then the other things that I've noticed is, and I think this is a good thing. I'm actually taking it as a compliment, but we have people that say they want to help. And then once I actually send them the paperwork of what I expect of the volunteers, they go, oh, you actually want me to work? and they backtrack a little. So, there's a lot of people.
Or not. We're building a great team.
We really are.
I think since the last time we saw you, I think we had maybe 2 people on our board. Now we have a CFO that's actually running our oversight of our accounting practices. She's a great accountant. I mean, I would never even dream of doing this if I didn't have her office skills. I mean, she doesn't talk about it, but Whole Foods, right. She helped build in that area from the office structure, working in there. Then she went on to help start their first store in Boulder, which is an incredible store. And just that atmosphere that she has about being bubbly in work and a good work ethic all the time. She's smart. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't be where we are if I didn't have her as a team player. And I think she pretty much sells Regroup, because when I go in there and they go, well, how are you going to do this? And she can rap the rap that they want to hear about business.
I've got marketing experience.
Exactly. They're like, oh, okay, she does know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
So
the other thing I was going to say too, though, that I had no idea when we started this, is that one of our biggest challenges is just overcoming the skepticism of nonprofits. So when we go in and say, this is what we're doing, and they're like, so if I give you $1, how much is going to the veterans?
Right.
How much are you getting paid every year? And I'm like, well, we've been working for 2 years for free.
2 years, no paycheck.
But there's a lot of skepticism out there. So we're really having to work to overcome that. So we're very open. Here's our financials. Here's, everything is open. We'll answer questions and everything. But I was surprised at how hard that was to overcome, especially being a veteran nonprofit. There's just so many that pop up. And then the other thing's just funding. So I thought, okay, we get our 501c3 and we're out. We're off running. But a lot of the larger grants, you can't even enter their grant application process unless you're invited. And the criteria to get invited is you have to be in operation for 3 years. So for the first 2.5, 3 years, you're just treading water, bootstrapping everything.
Yeah.
Depending on your family and friends to help you get the mission to a level where okay, we got this. And yet being able to prove that you've got some good outcomes so that when you do enter that third year and start applying for grants, you've got a solid plan.
It's tough. I mean, I never thought nonprofit. I thought, hey, great idea. Everybody's going to love me. They're going to throw money at this idea and we're going to sail off in the sunset.
Well, and interesting too, I had no idea on this. A nonprofit can technically form with the IRS and the state, and then you've got 2 years to actually fill out your paperwork and pay your fee to become certified. So there's a lot of nonprofits that form and start taking donations and then never complete it, and they fizzle out. So the first 2 years, we've had that skepticism, like, are you really going to even be able to make it? You really have a 501c3? Like, people are surprised. You're only 2 years old and you already have this?
Yeah, we didn't take a donation until we had the 501c3 in place before we even asked anybody for any type of funding at that point.
Right.
That's a very good point. And there's a huge misconception when it comes to 501c3s and nonprofits in general, that the moment I go nonprofit, people are going to love me. They're going to love it. They're going to throw money at me. I'm going to have so much money. I'm going to stack it and I'll build things with it.
Right.
And that's just not true.
No.
You're absolutely right. You're a dime a dozen. I'm not going to say your organization is a dime a dozen.
No.
But nonprofits are a dime a dozen. There's 1,000. There's thousands of them.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with the rejection? Every business, whether you're a profit or nonprofit, you're going to go into that boardroom. You're going to say, hey, I have this vision. It's wonderful. I'm going to do these wonderful things for vets. And they look at you in the face and they say, nope, no, thank you.
Right.
On your bike.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
It's hard. And especially because I take it personal.
She does.
And Tony
can you not?
just like, whatever, I'll do it without you. I'll prove it to you and you'll be begging to be part of it.
Well,
he's just much more mission driven, whereas I take it personal. I'm like, well, but you don't like what I'm doing.
You know what though? Let me hit on that real quick. And I'm so glad you said that, because I put this out in a video a couple of weeks ago, and I think you should take it personal, because you just said both of you have worked on this nonprofit for 2 years without pay.
Not only
2
without
years.
pay, but put personal
money
funds into it.
Yeah, you put your time, you put your money, your blood, sweat, and tears.
Right.
And for somebody to sit in a boardroom and sharpshoot you,
right,
and tell you essentially that your idea is crap, or hey, come back in another 2 years and we'll talk. It's like, hey man, this is my life.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing, and this is for other people.
Right.
I'm not about to make $1 million in a nonprofit.
Well, and one thing I'm going to say about our mission is a very, it sells itself. I don't have to really get out there and say, oh, we're going to prevent military homelessness, because if you really go down to the meat and potatoes of it, the VA has been screwing it up. I love my VA. Love you guys. You know that. But when you get $6 billion and you can only knock it down a couple notches for homelessness, we didn't do a good job. And that's just it. And I have no problems. We get to our 10-year mark here at Regroup and I don't hit those marks, then I failed, because I set these marks where we're supposed to be at 10 years. And maybe they may be too big and too high, but I still have to walk in that room and say, everybody, my idea failed you or my plan failed you, and this is why, and I now have to try and figure out how we regroup and come back at it again. But we were just having this conversation in our meeting with our we have social media team, and our board member that handles our videography production for. We were driving and Stephanie said, I remember 2 years ago, we were on a phone call and you were asking a mentor that had a nonprofit already about how in the hell do you ask somebody for money? I mean, as a salesperson, you've got a product. You walk in and say, this is my vacuum cleaner. Look, it vacuums really good. Buy it. That totally makes sense to me. But for me to walk in there and go, okay, I got this really cool idea and I really want you to buy into this. Now, give me some money. And that just blew me away, because I'm like you. You tell me 20 miles to the objective, get there, blow it up, get the good people, I'm out of here. I work for my dollars. I get it. I'm sweat equity. I know this. But to walk into a room with a bunch of suits and go, hey, how you doing today? I'm Regroup Foundation, and this is what I've got. Woo!
And
Like,
you're talking to a bunch of suits
yeah,
who may not understand exactly what goes into being a veteran. Some of the reasons that these vets are on the streets, they don't get it.
right.
They don't understand what PTSD actually looks like. It's a commercial on TV to them.
Right.
Well, and as a nonprofit that's going into these large companies and potential employers of the members coming out of our properties, we don't want to go in and make it like, oh yeah, they're dealing with addiction and they're dealing with PTSD. We want to paint the best light of them because we're going to be looking for a different relationship from them in the future.
And that's a delicate balance.
It's a very delicate balance that we have to do is to make it where there's something that pulls their heartstrings and yet appeals to them as, I'm going to get a possible, great employee or, neighbor or, and whatever out of it.
We went after the homeless event. When we first put this idea together, it was all about, I wanted to save everybody off the street. In the back of my mind, I don't tell my business investors and everybody, but Antonio's still sick and he wants to do that. So how he does that is going to come further down the line. I get it. Once we sit down and roll out the numbers and how expensive, I mean, here you've got $6 billion was thrown at it to an entity that had numbers and people to push and develop programs, and they did a really great job with it. But there's a sense of responsibility of the individuals that we're dealing with too, that they have to sit there and go, you know what? I have to be human again. I have to sit down and push the load like I used to and suck it up and get to work every day on time and be that employee. And so one day that I am the employer or the job manager versus being stuck as the low guy on the totem pole again. So that whole first phase at Regroup is these discussions when we sit in the room, we're bringing people in that, hey, they've been doing this. They get it. They understand how to do this and make you a better civilian again. And that's what we're going to really push at Regroup is that it's a mentality standpoint that we have to break. I mean, I got out running, briefing a general every day and I couldn't get a job. And let me tell you something. You talk about PTS, that would kick it in, and it did. I mean, and let me tell you, I also preach this in the real of the world. Just as much as they're looking for a good employee in the real good, wholesome market of America, there are bad guys out there searching for our skills and assets that will turn them and burn them. And I'm telling you, a guy on his luck who's got the kind of skills that we have, you don't want that opportunity to happen. So it's better for you to invest into programs to ensure that our guys go to work for what we believe in and what we want to do, and that's be great Americans again. So
let me ask you, from this moment right here where your organization stands, if you could go back in time and do any part of it over again, what would you do differently? If anything.
I don't think I would. I mean, seriously, I couldn't tell you how proud I am when we walk into, like DLA Piper, international law firm that has taken us on pro bono. And so they're working on a couple of our things and they're saying, okay, can we see your bylaws and all your founding documents? And we give them all of that and they look at it and they're like, so which law firm did you guys have do this? And we're like, oh no, it was us. And they're like, oh, okay. And we didn't miss anything. All our T's are crossed, our I's are dotted.
That's her. That's not me.
It was us. We put the research and the time in. The first 6 months before we even filled out our 501c3, we toured other nonprofits, homeless shelters in particular, and saw what was working, what wasn't working, and really developed our best practices and where the gaps were that we were going to fill in. And then we've strategically brought on board members and spokesperson that will represent us in a great way. And so, I don't know if you had just recently seen, but we announced...
We're going to do that at the end, I think. We're going to do all the goody stuff, right, at the end?
All the goody stuff?
All the new stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, so I guess I'll hold my excitement.
Yeah, she's excited about it. But,
so then the last thing I was going to say is that, also... just that with us wanting to really kind of overcome even the stigma that some of the veterans are putting out there, this whole disgruntled PTSD veteran back off.
Dysfunctional. Yeah.
That's isolating them from integrating with their civilians, and so trying to overcome that.
I think that's a small percentage.
But I think that's one of the things that we've done is we've been really, really proactive in the positive.
Yeah.
And so I don't regret that either. I mean, really, I think my only regret was Memorial Day weekend, alcohol and handing veterans microphones to share stories at a pub crawl.
We learned a little bit from that one. I think if I had to do anything out of this at all, I think I would have reached harder out to a mentor that really would have sat down with me and Steffi and said, okay, let me help you get to point A. Let me help you get to point B. Let me help you get to point C. And maybe I should have done some more counseling with anger a little bit, because I've been noticed to get on Facebook and blurt some. I'm real though. We're in the military used to people when you tell them to do something. Sure, we got UCMJ to back us up as an individual in charge, but it was your word more than anything that you were taught that. Yeah. In basic training, it broke you down that the only thing that's going to separate you from the animals in this situation is going to be the fact that your word means something to your brother or sister. So when we get out here and someone tells me, yes, I can do this and this and this, and this is what we'll do, and all of a sudden you get into 3 months of massaging, and they turn around and go, yeah, we really can't do that. And I'm not going to drop any names about a phone company that burned me for a year that said they were going to help out and help us with phone service and just bring people to our events and talk about their program of helping veterans out. And, I will never burn AT&T that way. I just won't mention their name.
No, I absolutely
not at all.
No, why would you?
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like, and I liked the idea of seeking mentorship. Mentorship is so important, especially when you're jumping into new water.
Right.
You don't want to. You could probably doggy paddle and do what you got to do, but if you have somebody who has some knowledge about how to swim, they're going to show you a couple of techniques. Yep. That way you're not treading water and dying.
I don't see why Trump doesn't reach out to me and mentor me in raising funds. I mean, I think, or his sons.
Everybody knows that Trump is actually he's one of my biggest viewers.
Right.
And if Donnie T isn't reaching out to you right now, that's on him.
It'll happen. Done deal.
We're cool like that too. I refer to him as Donnie T.
DT.
So if I'm a young veteran, I just got out, or I'm still active duty or National Guard, and I want to start a nonprofit, but it seems like it's so overwhelming. There's a lot going on. What would be your advice to me as the young nonprofit startup founder?
Do your research.
Yeah.
Do your research. Reach out to organizations that are doing things similar. Really, like I said, identify where the gaps are so that you're not competing against someone that's already doing something.
Yep.
Or if they're doing a great job in their area and it's a very localized thing, and then you can duplicate it. But definitely
don't reinvent the wheel.
Don't reinvent the wheel. Us nonprofits have to stick together, and we have to work collaboratively. And so that's been something interesting too, as a challenge is, I just thought, we're all supporting veterans. We're all going to work together. And there's some that are like, no, we're doing our thing and we don't want to compete, for dollars, compete for the different dollars and grants against you. But, so we're not going to join.
I don't believe that. I believe if people are going to donate to your cause, they were going to do it regardless. And when they weigh up, it just doesn't make sense. I'd rather be going in as a team and splitting funding. And if you're the bigger nonprofit, then you get your bigger part and I get my little part. I get it. But if I'm going to hustle and try and get you the same donations, why not do it together? That's the way I feel about it.
Right.
But, and we'll do that. That's one of the things that we're going to do. We're big about bringing nonprofits on that are doing something that we're not going to do and say, hey, or if it's a collaborative thing that they're doing and they're doing it better, I'm going to be like, hey, please show us how you're doing that. We want you to do it here at the Regroup site and teach us to be better. And we'll just give you that whole portion of it because you're doing it better.
Well, but like you said, just not reinventing. There's no reason to do that. So like phase 1, I had mentioned the therapies. I don't want to plan hunting trips and whitewater rafting and rock climbing. And
she shoots really good though. She could do it.
There's just no reason for me to have to plan all of those when there's so many awesome organizations already doing that.
Yeah.
They're established, they're doing that. So we're wanting to partner with them. And so that's what I would recommend as well, is really figure out who you can partner with, where you can fill in the gaps, and work with your other nonprofits.
And business plan.
Write your business plan.
You have to have a business plan.
I was just about to ask you about that. How important has a business plan been for you guys?
Because it keeps you focused. It guides your every decision. As you bring on board members and staff, it helps give them guidance on what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's your roadmap.
I want to run something by you guys, and I want to run it by you because you've been doing this for so many years, and you have seen the ins and outs of this, and you're very familiar at least with your business plan. I had a friend of mine talk to me about business plans, and he compared it to an op order. And I thought about that comparison, and I kind of liked. I kind of want to run that by you, Antonio. How do you feel about comparing your business plan to a military op order?
It's the same. It's the same piece, honestly, but more detailed. A lot more detailed.
A lot more detailed.
Yeah, I can tell you though. I didn't really enjoy algebra and statistics when I was in college, going back for PA school, and I was like, I will never freaking use this. Why? I mean, when I'm putting my hands into a patient, when will I be thinking about how many times do I have to do this to make it, it just wasn't in my scope. But really interesting is the fact that when that door closed and then this door opened, the number and statistics we're going to play involved are huge. So now, I look at a program, I can look at a program's numbers briefly, and because I've been building this from the bottom up and exponentially doing it, I can look at those numbers and go, this is not jiving somehow. And where you're going to have to explain to me where you're making this up at. And you can do that in the nonprofit sector, which is really interesting in this business model, is that you can count in sweat equity. People donate time. There's certain things that happen in they give away, their own business items, things of that nature to help run fundraising, and also their own items. I mean, that's been the biggest, huge. I don't think we would be as far as long as we would if people just didn't give their the term for goods or in-kind
donations and services.
Huge. Yeah. I mean, those have been. I mean,
that was 89% of our income last year.
Yeah, so we've had
very little cash, very little liquid assets. Most of our donations last year were in-kind donations.
I think when we met you, we had put about $25,000 of our own money into it at that point, and then now this year we're at about $200,000 worth of in-kind donation, and also people pushing the buttons, I call it, hitting the donate button on our Facebook page.
Well, it was $211,000 last year in in-kind donations.
We went from that to that, and it's moving pretty much in that same direction this year. So we hope to kick off. We're getting ready to talk about all the goodies that we're getting ready to do. But building that team, I mean, that business plan, that op order, it was really much how I did it. I mean, I sat down, and when I gave it to Stephanie, she goes, "This is only 5 things," and I'm like, well, let me tell you.
5 paragraphs is what I know.
Off order, but I could imagine that you are identifying your competition or your enemy, maybe, if you want to. So maybe an off order, and then your allies. Who are you going to work with? Who are your allies? So I think that could be very similar.
Yep.
Maybe the only thing that an op order wouldn't have would be your marketing plan. So I don't know. Is there a marketing plan in a?
When SF there is. Because you got to try and get your name out there in the public. So there's ways of doing that by helping with med caps or doing animal treatment.
Well, and then of course your budget predictions. Sure. Your income and your your expenses and your income and everything. So all that budget.
It's so interesting because I have like I said, I've been out here in Kuwait, and I've met some very interesting people from all different walks of life.
Let me grab my truck driver real quick. He's outside. Let me get him in here real fast.
Sure. One of the interesting things to me has been learning a little bit more about program management.
Right.
and under a project management. And that's, I've never really been exposed to that until recently. And I'm seeing how important project management is towards building a successful business plan. And you know, that just goes from part of you know, the construction of your business, whether it's profit or nonprofit.
Right.
But you really need project managers. You need people who understand how to take something from idea to reality. And not just anybody can do that. You really have to have a certain set of skills to make that happen, understand the process to make things happen.
Correct.
Otherwise, you just got a guy with an idea.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and like I said, you know, anytime I've got a volunteer that wants to come on, and I give them the paperwork and what's expected, they either go, that's pretty standard, and they jump right on board, and then they know what they're, what's expected of them. So we've got that, and we can move ahead. Or the other benefit is we weed them out right from the beginning if they were just looking for a title on a resume. Because that's the other thing with a nonprofit, it's hard to fire a volunteer.
Wait,
Get out of here.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm glad you brought this up, but I want to address this because it breaks my heart when I get an individual that has the passion and the want and the drive to help, but when it's all that they want to do and they're not taking care of themselves, and you have to sit back and say, hey, listen, you're running into problems that you will be homeless if you don't sit down and take care of yourself first. And I've had these kind of things happen with, people getting on board, and I'm like, I get where your energy and what's going on here, but you need to take care of you first. And that's one of the biggest things that we have in the military that we have to turn around. And that first phase is the 2-second thinking and the savior complex that we've developed. Yeah. I mean, a lot of us go homeless because of the fact that we've given everything away to the individual we were in love with, or we thought that we were saving them first. And you've been no good to that individual by not taking care of yourself first, which I was notorious for until I got into some counseling sessions. And that was old garbage from, me doing that with my brother since I was a little kid. And you get into the military and they pound it into your head, jump on that grenade, pretty soon it's just normal behavior. You just get out, grenade, grenade, grenade.
And there's so many of them out here in the civilian sector.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So let's get to the fun stuff, the good stuff. What is on the horizon?
So, 4th of July weekend, we are launching a crowdfunding campaign. So that's going to be really, really fun. And
you can sit down in here.
Definitely keep
warmer here, though.
Keep a lookout for that. And then the other big announcement is Deshauna Barber, Miss 2016, Miss USA. Just came on as a spokesperson.
Captain Barber.
Yeah. So she's the first Miss USA that is an active duty military. And so she's Army.
Wow.
Go Army.
Active duty Army reservist. And she's on board now. She's a spokesperson. So that's one of our big wins that we've just released.
Yep. Also Victory Coffee. Cade, I met him down here in Austin. He had a coffee business he was getting ready to do. Seal was on the Travel Channel. And I was laughing because we were both in LA at the same time and never bounced into him. But I said, now I'm all the way here in Texas. I got to find a production crew to handle our to handle our commercials. He's like, hey, I got the perfect people did my commercials for my coffee. And I was like, turn them on to me. They came out here to the site and seen what we were doing. And he was like, how do we help you build this?
Yeah, so they became one of our biggest in-kind sponsors last year and joined the board.
Right.
I mean, he was that moved by it.
That's awesome.
So we've actually got quite a bit of cause marketing sponsors. So he just mentioned Victory Coffee. We've got Ranger Bags, or Ranger Supply Room. Ranger Supply Room, he's got the Ranger Bags. We've got C3 Realty, Patriot Produce, that's a produce stand opening in Wemberley that's doing a portion of sales. Gray Matter, which is
the cool side of the world
PTS.
now. All
all right.
This new therapy that's out there in Colorado. We've been approached to grow green out there all day long. For the first time, we started up right. Cash crop, exactly.
But we can't touch it yet. It's not federally okay. So.
Yeah, so it interferes with our Regroup grant process, so we have to stay away from it. But
the paraphernalia is okay.
Yeah.
So Gray Matter, that's also a veteran. Green Beret Challenge. So we've got all these amazing companies that are doing this cause marketing where they're like, we will give you a portion of our sales.
Yeah, it's called self-sustained investing. Best thing that's
awesome.
out there.
So we're getting a lot of support and a lot of traction from things of that nature, where you purchase, cause, and do Regroup. Oh, and Amazon Smiles. We get a portion of that every quarter.
Well, we're getting into the market with it's funding through your corporate sponsors to do matching. So, like, I just found out we've got some people that have donated through Dell. If you work for Dell, you can match to Regroup. You could put in $100. They put in $100. So there's all kinds of that happening as well. We're hoping to get more of that going on, so that a lot of people that are working can get involved and help in that direction that way. So, yeah, I mean, with that going on, but the cool thing too is that with the agribility that we're working with we're getting into markets of agriculture that I was excited. I mean, that part to me, I hauled around. Stephanie was laughing. So we just did a 2-phase. We did a mental awareness campaign. It was the movie Man Down. I don't know if you saw our advertisement on Facebook.
I saw your I saw your advertisements.
The director, Dido, and the producers and some funders out of Hollywood said, hey, we want to help produce a environment in certain cities where we can discuss mental wellness and why this movie was made. And I said, hey, just the fact that you care about us makes me excited to do it. So we put a panel together. I had just retired Command Sergeant Major Greco, who was running that theater you were in at one point, went through a mental episode and had to get a psychiatrist on board while he was in command staff. So he's trying to discuss the idea of getting rid of the stigma of having, because we run up here, man. I mean, I laugh because Stephanie goes, you're not freaking out. And I'm like, listen, there is no bombs going off. There's no bodies I'm dragging off the combat, out of the AO. So it's hard for me to get excited. Like, okay, it's money. I get it. It's other people's money. I get it. But it will work itself out. It will work itself out. Yeah. We just have to come up with a plan to get it, to work. Right. And so when that doesn't happen, sometimes I think I'm not wired right because of the fact that we're desensitized, man. We kind of really are. So when we get back here in the civilian sector, some of us rise faster in the work community because of it. But at the same time, you build enemies because you're moving up so fast. I mean, you got a guy that's been at that company working 10, 15 years, and all of a sudden you walk in and you don't freak out over everything, but yet you're making progress for the company and you move up faster. I mean, that's the kind of things you're going to face in this environment and how you handle that. So I have to say that we did that event, and during that process, I wanted to show how we're going to grow food. So we're teamed up with, they just got acquired by
Bright Agrotech
out of Wyoming, who's one-stop shop.
Plenty. They got acquired by
Plenty out of San Francisco. Yeah. So they're the ones that you send them a check and they give you a farm that grows upright, pretty much is how it works. And they've been doing this for a couple years out throughout the U.S. Their numbers are really tight and refined. Out of all the companies I researched, I was like, I like how low your numbers are. I trust them. This is the ones I want to go with. So we had them send us a grow kit. So I'm carrying around my little baby heads of lettuce all through Austin.
He's got them hanging in the shower at the hotel.
And I got to feed them with the water drop all night long.
That's pretty cool.
And so and they did great. I said, Stephanie, if I can grow heads of lettuce in a bathroom in the middle of a hotel, we're going to be okay because I kill everything. And these babies were fine. So that's the cool things that are happening. I mean, growing food and growing healthy humans, man. That's what I'm excited about.
That's beautiful. All right. Well, hey, I want to thank you both again for taking the time to do another interview. And you know, I really loved the first one, and I'm so glad to have you on again as this podcast grows and it gets a little bit. We evolve. Just like everything else, we're all going to evolve, and the podcast is no different. Is there anything else you want to, any parting shots before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just thank you. It was good to see you again.
Yeah,
thanks for calling.
Thanks for caring, man. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I can't get this out there and make it happen unless I have people like you that care about what we're doing. So I love you, brother.
I absolutely do.
Be safe.
I love you too, man. Thanks again. Thank you both. And I will see you guys very soon when I come back to Texas for a little bit. And I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
All right, that does it for episode 18. That was Stephanie Sultan and Antonio Ruiz of Regroup for Vets, a nonprofit in Central Texas that is doing everything they can to combat veteran homelessness. Now, one thing that separates Regroup for Vets from a lot of other nonprofits is their ability to tell their story. And if you're interested in starting a nonprofit, or if you're joining a nonprofit, it's really important that you also know how to tell the story. So I highly recommend a book by Dan Portnoy called The Nonprofit Narrative: How Telling Stories Can Change the World. You can find this book at theaarpodcast.com/reading list, or you can click the link below and it'll take you right over to the affiliate network, and you can purchase the book through Amazon's affiliate, through us, basically. So that does it for this episode. I don't want to ramble anymore. I just want to thank Regroup for Vets for everything that they're doing. And I highly encourage you all to go check out all their social media, like, listen, subscribe, and share. And speaking of subscribing, I want to hit this nail on the head one more time. YouTube, the AARpodcast.com needs you to go to YouTube, find us, and subscribe. Okay? Not only are you going to help us get that youtube.com/theaarpodcast, every episode is going to come right to your YouTube stream, and you'll be able to keep up with these wonderful, awesome, amazing veteran-owned businesses, and you can hear their stories, and they might be just the thing to inspire you to start your own business. Or maybe one of these vets has the answer to a question that is keeping you from taking the next step. So, youtube.com, the AAR Podcast. Subscribe. Also, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm everywhere. Okay, the AAR Podcast is everywhere. So be sure to support the podcast with all these social media outlets, but especially YouTube right now. So, all right, that does it. I'm gonna keep rambling. I don't want to keep rambling. You don't want to hear me ramble, especially if you're doing the audio version of this. Then it's just like ramble. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So I will see you at episode 19.